Welcome to Gray Overload. I'm Anthony, and let's talk about what Nvidia purchased yesterday. We find out now Nvidia has bought ARM as of yesterday, and there's been a lot of talk on Twitter, been a lot of talk in other places as well, news articles and everything, what people expect from this and where do you think they're going. And I'm going to add my input to it as well and kind of go over kind of what happened here a few weeks ago, about a month ago or so. There was a rumor that Nvidia is looking to buy ARM, and it looks like they landed on a price of $40 billion. So if you have $40 billion, you could have maybe competed, but Nvidia wanted to go through there and have it for themselves, and they so far have an offer, and now we're going to be about 18. I'm guessing it's going to be 18 plus months roughly. For it to go through the regulatory processes. Who knows what other things may happen, but $40 billion to get ARM is not a small chunk of change, and Nvidia is going to be talking this up quite a bit as they don't want to be showing off, especially towards their investors, that maybe they didn't make the right decision. And who knows, this might turn out to be great, may not turn out to be great. We won't know for many, many years to come, and what other things may happen in this market. So here's a quick look at the Nvidia blogs of it as we go through here. Nvidia is going through and just kind of talking about the technology here, about kind of what they want to do with artificial intelligence. They're big on AI in this. They want the Cambridge Center, where ARM was kind of started and developed, to still be there. They want to be a global leader in ARM, Nvidia supercomputer research, AI training, startup accelerators, industry collaboration. And then if we jump over here, we also got Jensen as well going through and talking about, this is his letter. He, signed a definitive agreement, kind of talked about something, with how many ARM computers have been built with ARM. And, he's including cell phones in there. And there could be some really cool stuff that come out of this with ARM and NVIDIA GPUs together. But then you got AI here. And one thing that they did say, ARM's business model is brilliant. We will maintain its open source licensing model and consumer neutrality, serving customers in any industry across the world, and further expanding ARM's IP licensing portfolio with NVIDIA's leading GPU and AI technologies. Then he goes into some other stuff, and I thought that was interesting because as you go through and look at Nvidia's history, it doesn't seem like that they're open to just this open licensing model. So is this something that's really going to continue, or is this something maybe Nvidia's going to take away after a while? And we'll see how other companies react. We'll see if this gets blocked, because if this gets blocked, well, we know how other companies maybe feel, that maybe pressures from other companies towards governments to saying don't let this go through. I mean, SoftBank bought this for $32 billion, if I recall, and now they're selling it for $40 billion. And one of SoftBank's things was keeping it independent. I know that some ARM people have already been outspoken. I think ARM, he was one of the founders or something like that, was outspoken about Nvidia taking it over. And rightfully so. There's a lot of other people in the industry that are worried because of Nvidia's past actions. It's not that Nvidia can't change, but they have a history of anti-competitiveness in them. We have GPP recently, high consumer prices, yet there was not really anything in the market from AMD, but and consumers voted with their wallets to go buy those high price graphics cards. However, a little bit of competition, Nvidia lowers them with this new 3000 series. So does there need to be something else to come here that's more than just x86 that can kind of fend off Nvidia and ARM in this instance, if that comes down to hitting a roadblock? That's kind of what I'm thinking, is that I see Apple kind of spinning off theirs if they can. I'm sure that there's some legal agreements that Apple, maybe even Qualcomm, and some of these other companies have, so that if it were to go through and be like, hey, Nvidia's not doing something right by us, Nvidia's actually being able to see what we're doing with everything, this is not good, we want to go in a different direction, let's spin off our ARM designs, and let's do our own. And instruction sets may diverge, which that's just going to happen. And if that's the case, well, then we're going to have a lot more different processors that compete with each other, maybe different feature sets, and this could be a really exciting future. Then that also maybe doesn't put this purchase as a great light towards Nvidia, because if everyone's going to do their own thing and not have to pay all the royalties to ARM, well, their licensing model fell apart. There's also what is it, Sci-Fi? So RISC-V. Sci-Fi had an announcement today about their their industry processor, kind of desktop platform working with Linux. Who knows where that's going to go? I think that RISC-V is going to be, let's say this all goes through and there's nobody, all the governments just go, oh, yeah, this can go through, right? We have China, UK, and the United States are probably the three big ones that are going to be doing it, because United States and China with technology right now, back and forth there. And then you have the UK where ARM is based out of. So those three are probably going to have a huge amount of input in this. And if they say, okay, everything looks good, Nvidia has to abide by this, well, you know, we see in the United States how bad that turns out with every single like internet company merging together, etc. I mean, my internet company merged with another one, and service isn't any better. I mean, worst in most cases. So been having fun with that, and that's where I just kind of see this, right? They're not holding up. Companies, especially in the United States, do not hold up their end of what's actually happening, because I have no idea why. It's very annoying, very irritating, and it's one reason why I don't really like mergers here in this country or buyouts, because what happens is usually competition is diluted and we get a lesser product of it. T-Mobile Sprint merger, that's still here to really go through, but there's already signs of that it may not do as well. So what are we going to expect of this? I do expect Apple to probably spin off or do something else. Apple and Nvidia have not, I mean, they clashed, right? This is Apple and Nvidia back in the day. They were going head to head, and now they're going to work together. It's comical to me to think that. Maybe things have changed. Maybe cooler heads will prevail in that relationship. But I mean, Apple's basically locked out Nvidia GPUs out of their Mac lineup. So is that something there? Would Apple be one company that maybe would put a lot of money behind RISC-V and move towards it? Yeah, I think so. I also think that if let's say you're doing this for AI and creating an AI chip, let's say AMD or Intel want to be a part of that and use that. Does AMD or Intel want to let Nvidia know what their roadmaps will be? Right? Because it's owned by ARM, or it's owned by Nvidia. ARM's owned by Nvidia. So maybe if you're collaborating or getting those licenses, there's some sort of roadmap timeline that you have. Are they going to want to share that? So there's going to be a lot of competition here that may make it a disadvantage to a lot of companies, especially that design their own CPUs. Time will tell to see how this all works out. But I have my doubts on this. I could see some great things that Nvidia could do, though, right? A lot of Nvidia could then now step up and create their own CPUs, be in a position that they have the opportunity to go after an Intel. Now, as much as I think that there's, some competition between AMD and Nvidia, I don't think there's really a lot of bad blood between those two companies. However, Intel and Nvidia is kind of like Apple and Nvidia. I think there's a lot more bad blood there, that they just smash heads, right? A lot of history there, a paying graphics licenses back and forth, or from Intel to Nvidia, and now Intel wanting to do their own GPUs. Nvidia's GPUs are sold a lot with Intel's, right? And especially in the mobile market, that's just the way it's been for so many years, because AMD just didn't have a great outstanding product in there, especially in the high end. And so now Intel wants to go after that, especially the low end, where there's a lot of Nvidia GPUs that are added on, like the MX, was it 250 and 350, soon to be 450, 150, before all those. So that was a cheap little add-on that Nvidia was able to sell, And now Intel is supposed to be better than those, right? That was Intel's presentation with Tiger Lake, is to be better than those. Okay, where is this going? There's a competition coming afoot there. What does Intel do to react? I think we're still in the early stages by Intel's adjustments, so we don't really know. But Nvidia does not want to let this down. They are going to go after Intel with whatever they can, and they had $40 billion to spend on ARM to do that. Now, AI, there's another thing there. I think Tesla was building their own AI chips, so I think there's a step up now that Nvidia needed to do, that it just couldn't rely on their GPUs. They needed to do something else. They needed to get, and they thought they had to get ARM. Now, I think that they could have designed a better ARM SoC with their chips and leverage that, but they thought it was the next best step. It was a better step to go and just buy ARM. Yeah, and will this ARM purchase pay back? Let's say RISC-V takes off. If RISC-V takes off, does this purchase pay back? Could Nvidia build a big enough supercomputer to take on Intel and AMD and supplant the x86 processors in one of these supercomputers? I think so. I think that they have that opportunity. Now, will it be big enough to make that purchase be paid off? Who knows how that's going to go through. It could, but time will tell with all these things. I just think there's a lot of questions, and I don't, from Nvidia's past, I don't trust them to keep this open and just open platform and licensing. And I think that there's going to be a lot more headwinds here with other technologies. Even if x86 keeps improving, with what some things AMD is doing, some things we're hearing Intel might actually come out with in 2021, 2022 timeframe. Who knows what that leads to down the road? Who knows what Intel's GPU leads to if they continue it and they keep pushing it forward, what they can do. You got Apple in the mix, you got Qualcomm. Does this change anything with ARM, Windows on ARM? That's a whole nother aspect. Do we get Windows on like RISC-V as another option? These are all things that I hopefully get answered soon. We already got Linux, I believe, on a RISC-V in some scenarios. And that's something I'm looking at there. So let me know what your thoughts are on this buyout, because like I've said, I have my doubts. I don't think that this is going to be the rosy ending everybody was hoping for when ARM, let's say, got purchased by somebody else from SoftBank. But when SoftBank spent $40 billion or $32 billion originally, and looking for a buyer for getting roughly $8 billion, well, Nvidia came calling and they accepted the purchase. So now we're going to have to wait and see what exactly happens down the road. We'll have to see if government agencies actually approve this, and I have my doubts there as well. I don't know if they can get through the regulatory process. I know the T-Mobile one that just went through the United States, T-Mobile Sprint, was a very, very long process. What was that, 2 years? So will this one be scrutinized as much? It still went through, right? So it still might just go through eventually. But our promises written on that paper are going to be worth what they were written on in a couple years after. That time will tell that. Will Nvidia uphold their promise to keep their licensing model? Time will tell. I have my doubts. So with that, leave your comments below what you think is going to happen with ARM. Do you think it's good or bad? Do you think this gives you more opportunity for things? I always like competition. I love competition, but in the process of gaining a competition, maybe in the computer sector or high computing or supercomputers, does that remove competition in other areas? And that's the concerning part. So with that, leave your comments below. I thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for helping this channel grow. I really appreciate it. And until next time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and God bless.